Just as done dirt cheap. It's May 8, 2012. It's gonna show people a biker's perspective and show you how it doesn't really make a lot of difference going on the sidewalks or going on the road. Not in an empty street anyway, but when traffic starts getting pretty heavy and there's a lot of cars driving back and forth, it becomes in the interest of a bicyclist to actually stay on the sidewalk. Reason for that, it's a lot safer. There's it's worth reiterating that on the roadways, cars are very large, they weigh a lot, and they can be fatal when they cross paths with a bicyclist. On the sidewalk, on the other hand, pedestrians and bicyclists, a bicyclist is basically a pedestrian with a bicycle between his legs, are relatively the same size, and they're much more aware of each other than, say, someone in a car is aware of bicyclists on the road. So it's actually an interest of bicyclists to stay on the sidewalk most of the time, just so they don't get run over. The consequences being you can actually get killed. It's not worth getting killed to have to allow someone to claim minor inconvenience while riding, as in a pedestrian claiming that there's some minor inconvenience from basically having bicyclists share the pathway. It's the middle of the afternoon, so traffic's pretty quiet right now, but many times during the day there's a lot of traffic. When that happens, an adult individual of the age of majority should be able to choose where their safest path of travel is, either being on the sidewalk or on the road, and that choice should be up to the individual whose life is at stake. The consequences of their choice may be fatal. So as you can see, during the afternoon, empty sidewalks or empty streets don't make a whole lot of difference. But when the traffic starts getting quite heavy, it's a different matter entirely. It's not just a matter of convenience, it's a matter of safety. Where is the safest path to travel for someone on a bicycle? That choice should be up to them and them alone, and only if there's a negative consequence to that choice, as in if someone is acting dangerously or weaving around people and endangering others, then at that time maybe there could be some intervention. But unless there's an injured party, the law should not intervene. There's nothing to intervene on. So keep that in mind. The most basics of legal principles is that, I mean, look at this. If I go down this road, I'm going to be running into that truck. So I'm going to go on the sidewalk because it's better for me. It's better for the guy driving the truck. It's better for everyone. Now, what I was saying was that the most basic legal principle is that no one has a cause of action in law unless there's an injured party. Because without an injured party, what is there to do, legally speaking? The basics of law is that the law is supposed to help make people whole again. People who have been injured, who've suffered a loss, are supposed to be able to get compensation through legal action. If there's no injured party, how could there be any standing in law? And that's what's so amazing about the sidewalk bylaws. And the basic thing about it is, how could they charge $50 to $500 just for being on the sidewalk? with a bicycle, even if no one's been harmed, no reason for it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Again, you can see it's an empty road. So why does it matter if I'm riding on an empty road or an empty sidewalk? Until there's a reason for it, which is if someone feels endangered by being in that location, as in if I was on the sidewalk and there was lots of people, I'll get off the sidewalk if the road was still a viable option. The road's not a viable option when there's dangerous traffic, driving around carelessly. And all it takes is a driver's a moment of inattention to be fatal to my life experience. So I believe there should be a reasonableness in any bylaw that specifically states that if someone's conduct is causing an injury to someone, not a hypothetical injury, but an actual injury, as in they're acting dangerously and they're endangering other people's experience, then there may be justification for a bylaw to intercede for the greater public's benefit. Well, so far it seems like the City of Fredericton has enacted a whole series of bylaws whose real purpose is to actually generate revenue for the city. Now there's a basic question in criminal law when they're trying to figure out who did it, and usually that basic question is answered by who benefits. When you can find is there clearly one individual benefited from whatever the crime was, it's likely they're the one who did it, because someone's not going to take the time, energy to go commit crimes and violate other people unless it's to their benefit. So when we apply that same principle to City of Fredericton bylaws, you find out it's not actually a benefit to the public's interest or the greater public good. Many of these bylaws, in fact, only generate revenue for the city, and that's in fact what they're doing. It's like a stealth tax that the city can use under the guise of public safety, when in fact it's to the detriment of the public safety, because these bylaws are used by the Fredericton Police Force as probable cause to arrest individuals who otherwise the Fredericton Police Force would not have any probable cause to arrest. And then once they arrest them, they give them these fines, $50 to $500. It's up to the discretion of the police officer to decide how much of a fine. And then, if it's not paid, the fine can start escalating. So, it's unfortunate that the system is set up this way, but we can change it. Every time you get a frivolous ticket for riding on the sidewalk with a bicycle, not having a belt on your bike, not wearing a helmet, these things should be challenged. And when they're challenged, we will create a situation where it'll be a financial reason for the city just to drop these frivolous bylaws and enforcement of these frivolous other laws, such as the Motor Vehicle Act, where it's against the Motor Vehicle Act to actually not have a helmet on a bicycle and not having a bell on the bicycle, which we'll be tackling a little bit later. One thing that's a little caveat for your information is that the only place in the Motor Vehicle Act that the word human appears is in definition of a bicycle. They say that a bicycle is a human propelled device or vehicle. I forget the exact term for that one, but the key information is it's human propelled, which distinguishes it from everywhere else in the Act which talks about person. Now, it's important to understand the difference between a person and a human being. In law, a person is a corporation. You as a human being may have many persons, and the word person comes from the word persona from Greek plays where they put on a mask. Person means a mask. So you may have many masks that you wear for different occasions. One of the occasions is after someone signs the Motor Vehicle Act, there's a person created called a driver. who has a license to drive under the Motor Vehicle Act. What's interesting is the term driver denotes from a time when people were either riding horses or driving cattle, and there's the implication that if someone was driving cattle, they were getting paid. It was considered commercial. That's why they call it a driver's license. It's actually, in fact, a commercial license. I'll point out some similarities. A taxi driver is an actual driver. He is driving people for profit from one place to the other. And illegally speaking, the people in the car that are paying him to get from one place to the other are called passengers. If you've ever been stopped by the police when you're traveling by car, they ask for a driver's license and they want to indicate that there's passengers in the car, which gives the implication that they're paying for the service. So it's actually a commercial endeavor to drive a car, and that's why people get a driver's license and they don't realize that that's what the language of the law actually means. And if just as a point of interest, if you ever want to go take a blank copy of a driver's license contract, one's actually contracting with the New Brunswick government for the privilege to drive for profit. The words are not exactly stated like that, but the wording of the contract is quite amazing. A little insight for you there. Thanks for watching. This is Justice Done Dirt Cheap, May 8, 2012. Sharing some thoughts on some legal matters. Thanks for watching, and travel safe.